Well, we're currently outside of Tucson, Arizona, which is the northern end of the Sonoran Desert. One of the reasons we like to come here is because it's now late December and it's still nearly 70 degrees outside. The landscape here is, of course, also intoxicatingly beautiful. One of the things I think we love the most about the desert is how beautiful the light can be here. A lot of that has to do with the color palette and texture of the landscape, but also a lot of it has to do with all the dust and sand kicked up in the air on these flat desert landscapes where the wind can sweep across it and kick all that stuff up, and then the sunlight is filtered through that and it creates warm and intense sunrises and sunsets. And for photographers and cinematographers, beautiful light is everything. I mean, essentially you're just trying to capture an imprint of light on a flat surface, whether it be a photographic print or a digital sensor and eventually a screen. And one of the interesting things is that despite how far technology has come in the last nearly 200 years since the invention of the photograph, is that one of the best mediums we have for capturing light, or at least one of the most beloved, is one of the earliest, which is through photographic emulsion film. And when I started making films, when Amy started taking pictures, the key to creating beautiful and rewarding imagery was still to shoot on film. There just wasn't anything on the market that could produce images that were even close to the look of film. And for anyone growing up watching movies and wanting to make movies, recreate the type of things that we saw on the big screen, those images that we wanted to recreate were all, of course, shot on motion picture film. So there wasn't anything you could go to the store and buy that could get you close to that look. So you always dreamed of one day having the funds or status or whatever to be able to work with real motion picture cameras, which were, of course, incredibly cost prohibitive, cost tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars, and only big movie studios had access to that kind of stuff. So for a long, long time, we were shooting stuff on crummy digital cameras and either fantasizing about it looking like film or trying our best to emulate the look of film, which 20 years ago was pretty tricky to do. Eventually, as I grew older and went off to college, I attended a film school. We had access to all sorts of movie-making equipment, stuff that would have been beyond my wildest dreams as a teenager growing up. You know, the only limitation at that point was your eye for composition and your ability as a cinematographer, but the sort of raw materials that you had were the same as the big guys. And the first, serious stories I ever told, documentary films, narrative films, were shot entirely on 16mm and actually edited on a reel-to-reel machine called a Steenbeck. We literally were cutting film and taping it together to edit. These days, as a sort of one-man band or, two-person band that we are here, it's a little absurd to try and produce work in that way. It's just so cost prohibitive and the equipment is big and heavy. The age of digital cameras where now the images are close to that look of motion picture film, it seems almost kind of silly to be working in analog film. But despite the fact that digital cameras have come a long way, they're still missing a little something. You'll hear a lot of people talk about this. It's kind of an intangible thing. I mean, if you really want to sit there and dissect it and get into the nitty-gritty, there are certain concrete, definitive qualities of motion picture film versus a digital image that we can get into. But in general, there's just sort of a feeling that motion picture film has, and really once you get into it, it's It's honestly about imperfection, that the incredibly clean and clinical look of our modern digital cameras, which was by design, by the way, you know, when people could only shoot on film, those imperfections were a nuisance. People wanted to get rid of those imperfections. They wanted a crisper, a cleaner, a more accurate to life image, which led to the technology that gave us these incredible digital cameras, because people were striving for that cleanliness in their imagery. They were tired of having to deal with the inherent imperfections of film. But the funny thing is once we got there and we managed to create, you know, the perfect image, we found that it didn't feel the same. We missed something about those old imperfect images. And it's hard to say exactly what that is. It probably has something to do with the fact that we as people aren't perfect either. So we find this sort of kinship with things that are a little wonky and imperfect, because we are. In recent years, with this big resurgence and interest in the film look, there have been a number of individuals and companies that have started to roll out pretty convincing film emulation, where people are looking to emulate the look of film through a digital format. So you can get that look of film without the cost and, you know, cumbersome nature of shooting on film. Even if you had the money to do it, it is just a little bit more complicated, which can be a barrier to entry for people. And lately we've been experimenting with some of those film emulation tools. Most notably, we've been using Dehancer, which to my eyes, as someone who's shot a lot of actual film, looks the best. One of the things that's so impressive about some of these modern plugins like Dehancer is that it's getting to the point where I can be fooled. And there really hasn't been anything like that up until this point that could fool me. We come here in the winter as sort of a off-season from what we normally are doing, which, you know, is creating films and telling stories that revolve around cold water species of fish, which are mostly in high elevation, cold places, and during the winter, those places are all under feet of snow. So we come down here to the desert and we kind of take a break from fishing and just sort of enjoy other activities, you know, hiking, skateboarding, bird watching, you know, whatever. This year, I'm going to try something different. There obviously aren't a lot of places where you can catch trout here in the Sonoran Desert, but there are other fish, some of them native, some of them not. And I've always been interested in fishing for carp. And I hear there's carp here. I don't know what patterns to use. I don't know where to find them. I don't know how they behave. I don't know jack shit about catching carp. I spent a lot of time in my 20s, teens and 20s as a skateboarder and skateboard filmmaker, hanging out in cities and, you know, urban environments. And I grew to sort of love those environments and see the beauty in those environments. Now, later in my life, most of my time is spent in natural outdoor environments. It's kind of cool to get to come back into an urban environment like this and relive some of those memories, and also relive some of that beauty, and also the intersection of the two, where nature sort of meets the concrete. And I don't know why I thought this would be easy, but I didn't think it would be this hard. It looks more promising than what we've been fishing.
Quick shout out to Onyx Off-Road, who helped support the making of this video. Living in our vehicle full time means that pretty much every day we need to figure out where we're going and where we're staying. And Onyx makes all that super convenient, with lots of awesome tools to help us make informed decisions. Even though urban carp fishing doesn't call for a lot of off-roading, we still use the built-in tools to scout potential spots, make notes on where and how to access them, and just keep things organized so we're not flailing when we inevitably strike out on the first few attempts. Thanks, Onyx, and if you're interested, check the links below. We've got some goodies in there for you.
So we changed locations, changed cities, in fact. Big issue in Tucson is there just weren't enough fish, and we didn't know what the hell we were doing. But met up with our friend Casey, who knows what to fish, where to fish, and how to fish it.
Watch them like nose the fly, and then they're like,
yeah,
what is this?
And there's more fish than you know what to do with here, just littered throughout the town's canal systems and freshwater ponds. The only thing keeping us from catching fish now is the angler. And yeah, I highly underestimated how tricky carp would be. They're super spooky, they're super discerning. I let their reputation as a big dumb trash fish skew my perception of them. Here comes some now. Come on now. Fish on. I think I might even have it by the mouth. Holy hell. All right, I guess I'm gonna have to walk with it. Oh, he's off. Son of a bitch.
Holy fuck.
It's all spot and stock. You gotta find a fish, you gotta lead it, you gotta be deadly accurate, and then you have to see them eat, and the eat is subtle. And they'll suck it up and spit it out, and they'll just keep on moving. You'll be none the wiser. There's not a whole lot that's translatable here from trout fishing. It's a little bit more like flats fishing, which I've never done. It's fun though. It's like hunting.
Oh
He slimed me.
He slimed me.
That's great!
There's an epic koi over here. Oh, how'd I spook him from here? F***ing 50 feet away. Oh, he's back. You hear people say that film has an organic look a lot, and that word out of context is kind of hard to place. You know, what does that mean? But it does have an organic look because film is literally organic. It's made of animal parts. It's made from the byproducts of living organisms, and it's reacting organically to light. Whether or not you can point to something on a strip of film or on an image that's been captured on film and say, there it is right there, you know, this particular quality is what makes it organic. Our brains, I think, can pick up on that. Sure, you can talk about the grain structure and the halation and the bloom and the color depth and density and all those things, but really it's sort of the sum of all of those parts that gives us that effect, that when we watch it, it has this life to it that a digital image oftentimes doesn't. Dehancer Pro isn't cheap. As of right now, it's almost $500. In the grand scheme of things, that would be about the cost of shooting, developing, and scanning a roll or two of 16mm, and then you have it for life. So it's still quite a bargain when you look at it that way. But a big reason why more people aren't shooting film is because it's cost prohibitive. So, you know, an incredibly cost prohibitive plugin doesn't necessarily solve that problem, even if it is a good deal in the long run. And of course, full disclosure, Dehancer sent me a copy of their plugin to test out in exchange for giving my thoughts about it in a video. There's no specific script I have to follow. They don't have a say in what I say. They don't get to review it. But I'm not shelling over $500 up front to be able to use it. Honestly, as an independent filmmaker, I probably wouldn't have the budget for something like that. I would never encourage anyone to buy something this expensive unless they truly wanted it or felt they needed it. If you're interested in this sort of thing, I'll leave a link down below. They offer free trials, so you can give it a shot, see if you like using it. If you are interested in purchasing, I've also got an affiliate link down there. Please use it, helps us out.